The world outside of jail is the only place that is more perilous to live in. Anybody who watches the evening news will quickly come to the conclusion that the world is a hazardous place to live in. It becomes clear that human nature has some severe defects when one violent crime is followed by another. Of course, not everyone has the need to hurt someone physically, but there are far too many people who not only have the urge but actively seek it out. A safe society must prioritize criminal justice because the outside world is hazardous. Prisons are built to imprison criminals, and some of them are made just for the most dangerous criminals in the world. 10 of the world's worst prisons. In close proximity to Kazakhstan's border with Russia sits the Black Dolphin prison. It is only given to the most violent and dangerous convicted offenders in the nation, including as Chechen terrorists, cannibals, pedophiles, and serial murderers. The dolphin sculpture made by the prisoners and placed on the grass in front of the jail reception gave the area its name. Guards patrol the facility every 15 minutes, and video monitoring is used to monitor the prisoners around the clock. Each 50-square-foot cell has 2 convicts allocated to it, and it is protected from guards and other inmates by 3 sets of steel doors. Only 90 minutes a day are allotted for prisoners to spend outside of their cells, in a desolate concrete exercise yard. To prevent them from learning the layout of the jail, interacting with other inmates, or overwhelming the guards, they are handcuffed, blindfolded, and made to walk with their heads bowed whenever they are transferred any place inside the facility. Black Dolphin is thought to be the only one who uses this method. The worst jail in Kenya is considered to be the Kamiti Maximum Security Prison, which is located in the Roysambu constituency. It was constructed in 1954 by the British to hold criminals during a state of emergency established in October 1952, and it was designed after an outdated colonial system. The old gallows at Kamiti are still in place, but the last execution there took place in 1987. The prison's stated capacity is 1,200, but sources claim there are between 1,800 and 2,500 convicts jammed inside. The facilities are terrible, and it is infamously overcrowded. Severe illnesses including gonorrhea, syphilis, TB, HIV, AIDS, and dysentery are widespread. Although Kamiti was previously notorious for harboring political prisoners and carrying out hanging executions, its notoriety increased in 2008 when a disturbance caused by a drug surge was caught on camera and shown on television. In 2021, when 3 convicted terror suspects managed to escape, it grabbed headlines once more. Afterwards, 7 wardens were detained for aiding them escape. There are maximum security, medium security, and low security sections in this Indiana prison complex. The Boston bomber Zokhar Tsarnaev lives in Tayot, often known as Guantanamo North, and is currently facing execution. In 2008, the ACLU charged Tayot with having grossly inadequate conditions in its special confinement unit, which houses prisoners on death row. It claimed that the inmates were denied access to medical treatment and mental health services, and that the prison's excessive loudness deprives them of sleep. Tayot has the most COVID-19 cases in the federal prison system in January 2021, including death row prisoners. Since U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland declared the Department of Justice will reconsider its position on death punishment on July 1, 2021, federal executions in Tayot have been put on hold. Only a few months before the end of Trump's presidency, the Trump administration carried out 13 federal executions, including the fatal injection execution of Lisa Montgomery on January 12, 2021. In 67 years, Montgomery was the first American woman to be executed. There are still 46 people waiting to die at Terre Haute, including Dylan Roof, who was convicted of federal hate crimes in 2015 and given the capital penalty for the murder of 9 churchgoers in Charleston, South Carolina. San Quentin is famed for its ferocity and is the oldest jail in California. Several notorious criminals have called it home, including Robert F. Kennedy's killer Sirhan, Scott Peterson, and Charles Manson. It housed California's sole petrol chamber in addition to the state's only death row institution, which housed more than 700 death row convicts and was the largest jail in the country. 3 years after the governor of California put a halt to executions in the state began the process of shutting death row and moving the convicts in early 2022. Throughout time, especially in the 1960s and 1970s, San Quentin developed a reputation for corruption and racial disturbances that the guards actively fostered. The Turkish Ministry of Justice erected the Diyarbakir prison in 1980. After the Turkish coup d'etat on September 12, 1980, Diyarbakir was turned into a military jail under martial law, where the use of torture as a method of forced assimilation of the Kurds was frequent. During the September coup, 650,000 individuals were imprisoned. The majority of them were assaulted or subjected to torture. Almost 500 people lost their lives, majority of them in Diyarbakir. Prisoners in Diyarbakir were subjected to horrifying acts of systematic torture during the time of barbarity, which refers to the early and middle 1980s, while Diyarbakir was still being constructed. Hundreds of testimonies from former Diyarbakir inmates have detailed abuse of the body and mind, deprivation of sleep, sensory, water, and food, Palestinian hangings, hanging by the arms, mock executions, electric shocks to the genitals, removal of healthy teeth and nails, rape or threat of rape, and worse. The development of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, which continues to battle against the Turkish government, was spurred by these mistreatments of Kurdish detainees. Diyarbakir is still in use today, and is infamous for having a high inmate to human rights violation ratio. After mixed criticism, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated in 2021 that it will be transformed into a cultural center. Mendoza prison in Argentina has a population that is almost 3 times the maximum allowed. Inmates are forced to sleep on the floor without beds in cells that are only 43 square feet in size and may hold up to 5 convicts. In 2005, Amnesty International published a report on the circumstances, warning that those imprisoned in Mendoza are in such a dire predicament that they have gone as far as to sew their mouths up in demand of better living conditions. The circumstances at the period were so bad that detainees were subjected to torture and occasionally even death. Inmates had no choice but to use plastic bags and bottles as restrooms since they received subpar medical treatment and the prison lacked a functioning sewage system. Georgia's habit of torturing prisoners by guards attracted attention from across the world in 2012, following a controversy at the Guldani prison in Tbilisi. A 35-year-old former prison guard who turned whistleblower captured footage of several violations, including rape and assault. Major demonstrations were prompted by the recordings across the nation, and the treatment of prisoners there has since undergone real change. Although conditions in the country's jails have improved over the previous 10 years, Guldani prison is once again in the news as the scene of demonstrations brought on by Mikhail Saakashvili's detention. Despite the fact that there are both pro- and anti-Saakashvili released demonstrators, the circumstance is drawing attention to the facility's prominence and repute. The most high-security jail in the US is also known as ADX Florence, Florence ADX, Supermax, or the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Ted Kaczynski, Ramzi Youssef, and Zacharias Musesa are among the most dangerous offenders to be housed in this institution, which was built in 1994. Inmates at this prison are kept in their 7 by 12-foot concrete cells for 23 hours per day in solitude. Little gaps in the metal doors of the cells serve as the only windows, and inmates are fed via these openings. During the 1-hour leisure session, inmates are permitted to leave their cells, but they are taken to a tiny outside cage while wearing various shackles. Former warden Robert Hood famously called the facility a clean version of hell. A 60-square-mile prison complex known as Camp 14 and Kashan is located close to the geographic center of North Korea. The U.S. Department of State has said that Camp 14 was constructed in 1959 close to the country's center, roughly 40 miles north of Pyongyang. With a capacity of 15,000 inmates, Camp 14 is regarded as a political prisoner camp. As a result of being enemy of the state, they are currently serving life sentences. Here, prisoners are constantly malnourished and made to work as slaves in agriculture, mining, and the textile industry. Moreover, Camp 14 has a 3 generations of punishment policy, which means that many of its inmates are there simply because they are related to someone who has been charged with a crime. As a result, it's probable that they will pass away there without ever having committed a crime. Gitarama, the most crowded jail in the world, is home to more than 7,000 inmates in a space designed to house just 400. The majority of the prisoners are thought to be responsible for the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. The men and women living here are forced to stand barefoot on the soiled ground for the entirety of the day because of the tremendous congestion, which causes their feet to rot. Many end up needing amputations, but with just one full-time physician assigned to the jail, the majority of inmates are unable to obtain the care they require, leading to half a dozen fatalities every day. Let's not spend too much of our life behind bars and miss out on this wonderful planet. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.